All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. New Cuban radar site near U.S. military base could aid China in spying. Now, we've actually talked about Cuba and what is going on with Cuba and other countries, especially China and Russia. And we actually talked about these potential spying sites and these satellite dishes and these facilities that were going up in Cuba. When they were first looked at, of course, people didn't think that they had the money to be doing this kind of stuff in Cuba, and this is definitely not them funding it. So who is it? Well, now there's even more confirmation that China is basically setting up in our backyard. Cuba, which is not far off of Florida, has a new spy base. Again, this is something that we have known, and it looks like they're even expanding. Satellite images appear to show that Cuba is building a new radar site likely to be capable of spying on the U.S.'s nearby Guantanamo Bay naval base in the latest upgrade to the country's surveillance capabilities, long thought to be linked to China. The base, under construction since 2021, but previously not publicly reported, which, again, this is something we've talked about for at least 2 or 3 years, is east of the city Santiago de Cuba near El Salar neighborhood. The Center for Strategic and International Studies said in a report published on Monday and later referenced by the Wall Street Journal. It said that Cuban Vice Foreign Minister Carlos Fernandez de Casio denied that Cuba was harboring Chinese military interests on the island, and it said, quote, "The Wall Street Journal persists in launching intimidation campaign related to Cuba without citing a verifiable source or showing evidence. It seeks to scare the public with tales about Chinese military bases that do not exist and no one has seen, including the U.S. Embassy in Cuba," De Casio said on social media. Well, it's actually a pretty solid point, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the potentials of what this actually means. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Remember, you have a full bibliography with all of the sources for today's show, including every picture, article, tweet, document that we're going to show you here today is all going to be available over on the website at marfooglenews.com. Just look for today's thumbnail. We are the target China off our shore. Now, it is really important to know about all of this, and over the last few years, I'm sure a lot of you guys have already known about this, but many people around us don't actually know about even the claims that this is even going on. Now, given the timing of all of this, we in the U.S. are dealing with just all sorts of stuff. If you're watching from the U.K. or Australia or Brazil or somewhere else, obviously, we are going through, all of the headlines are centered around what is going on with our prez and what is going on with all of that. Between the prez, the former prez, the prez's sons, all of them are in the news right now. But of course, with all of that, everybody knows there's a massive change that looks like it's coming. Media is very, very coordinated right now. It seems like everybody's turned on their favorite. And now we are also still moving forward into this World War III scenario. You have all of the wars that were already going, and all of them have essentially escalated in one way or another, which we'll show you here in a minute. So what the heck are they doing in Cuba? Well, we've covered stories from, of course, first off, Cuba said, there was a story saying, yeah, well, we want to bring up to 200,000 tourists from Russia. So Russian tourists into Cuba. At that point, we said, hey, that would be an excuse for them to just bring straight up 200,000 Russian soldiers into Cuba, and nobody would really raise an alarm. Well, then shortly after that, of course, all of us in this community called that. They said, yeah, Russian soldiers are most likely stationed there. Now, Russia is, to most of our opinion, a pawn, and this is kind of a proxy war, this whole UKR thing, with China, because China is funding Russia's side, we are funding UKR's side. China has helped Russia skirt all of the sanctions, and essentially they are no limits partners that are working together so well that Russia has not gone in the hole. So much to say that they are actually doing quite well considering all of the sanctions that are going on. So all of these wars have continued to escalate. Meanwhile, in the United States, which it matters, we are the number one country in the world. The whole world revolves around the U.S., is kind of falling apart right now. Now, I hate to say that, but it really is bad. Our media, our gov, our agencies aren't trusted. Our colleges aren't trusted. Nobody is trusted, and we are completely and utterly divided and hating each other and everything else. All of this seems like it has been coordinated to some point, right? So what is it all heading towards? I think many see the writing on the wall, and this is just part of it. Let's bring in my co-host, internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam. Hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, we've talked about the different bases and the different things popping up on Cuba. He makes a great point. Why is the U.S. ambassador here, the U.S. embassy in Cuba, you would think that they would probably send somebody out to see this. Or did they, and they're just not admitting it publicly? Or like, what is going on? That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, I think the last time we talked about this, they were talking about a spy or an intelligence a location or building or facility. They didn't talk necessarily about these particular types of dishes that are being put in. What's interesting, though, is the type of array they're installing. It was actually heavily used during the Cold War, and both the Russia and the U.S. had them, but we both decommissioned them because we got better, more advanced capabilities. But what's interesting is they've actually seen these same types of installations going up in the South China Sea on reef outposts and other locations. So China has actually been deploying these arrays. So that's why they're sort of drawing the correlation that it makes sense that this would be tied to the existing China investment that's happened in Cuba.
And I will say this. So if you remember when they did that spy base, so I do believe that there was communications stuff that they did think was spying, and that was 2 or 3 years ago. Or maybe it was even longer than that. Maybe it was before you. But they did find a satellite dish a few years ago, and they thought, oh, this is some sort of communication or some sort of spying tool. And then the spy base, there was also the Russia training center or whatever, and vice versa. Both China and Russia have had all of these weird rumors about Cuba, and now all of this is popping up. So if they are building these massive arrays that are visible from satellite, then you would think that this is now accepted fact. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening here. But if they are truly right off of our coastline, wouldn't that just fit in perfect with exactly what has been going down lately? As far as what is coming through, as far as our southern border, what is happening off of our east coast, what has been practiced off our west coast. Of course, you have China practicing in bays and in ports with their port-busting bombs and things like that, with ports that look just like our west coast. This is something they've done with Taiwan. They've made replicas of essentially the Taiwanese capital. They've done actual full-size replicas of our carriers, which they can see are done to our specifics. They're the exact length, the exact width, the exact height, all of the different things. They're not practicing of knocking out a Iranian carrier. They're practicing knocking out a U.S. carrier. Not to mention they've been practicing with different weapons as far as jammers. They say that they have a low Earth satellite that could jam all of our carriers' radars. And possibly even on top of that, they say now that they can locate all of our carriers and there is no hiding. They can't go into silent mode anymore. They will be found. Now, we have to take everything that comes out of China with a huge cup of salt. But most preppers, if they hear something like this, they're, of course, going to be on the safe side rather than say, let's be an optimist and let's not plan for it because that's just crazy, right? Meanwhile, the entire U.S. government is preparing for something massive. There is a ton of military movement all over the world right now, and they're shipping weapons. They're doing more drills than I've ever covered in the 6 years I've been doing this. And, of course, all of the allies and adversaries are all doing the same thing. They're all doing these massive, massive drills. Meanwhile, you have the head-to-head butting heads of multiple countries, and all of those countries just happen to have written agreements to essentially back each other up. And we've been following this over the last year, and now this is just one more thing. And I'm sure some people are going to chop it up to be, it's just propaganda. They're just scaring us. Well, what scares me more is what is going on inside the United States and what everybody is following right now. Obviously, something big is happening right now. And if you are going down the route that something may be happening right now, like on a massive scale, then I would highly recommend to expect the unexpected. And you would need a mighty big event to try to put people basically thinking about something completely different than what they're thinking about right now. Not to mention all of the different, political stuff that's going on right now. This is getting absolutely nuts. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's go over to the chat. Let's say hi. We've got Tracy K. We've got Mitch Mouth. We have Lori Griffith. Hey. We've got, of course, Cypher9. Magical thinking is counterproductive. I don't know. It depends if you, what is it? Alakazam, Shemuzum Waboozle. I don't know. You have to have the right words. And then Robin Cochran, thank you for being here. Pinch Runner. We've got Bobby Sue. Hey, Bobby Sue. Nice to see you. Karen Myers. Tammy Driver says, hey, Marv. Hey, thank you. John Wright. James Hilly. We've got Space Monkey. Rainwater. William Davis. Ilea. One of our favorite mods is here tonight. The Gunslinger 67. We've got Silver Fox, Brian Fink, and so many more. Thank you guys. Abracadabra. That's the word I was trying to say. Isn't abracadabra got some crazy symbolic meaning? I was just seeing some sort of short that was talking about that. All right. So as far as the Cuba base, I'm more worried about the 200,000 plus possible Russians that are chilling there. And, of course, what is coming in through the south. So I guess we'll all see, right? And then, Dex, do you want to talk about Taiwan says China's Coast Guard has detained a Taiwanese fishing vessel and demands its release?
Yeah, so stepping up the game, now what we have is the Coast Guard, the Chinese Coast Guard, has boarded a Taiwanese fishing vessel on Tuesday and then steered it to a port in mainland China. And now Taiwan is demanding that they release the vessel, saying it was obviously, inappropriate for them to do that. The Takshman 88 was intercepted by two Chinese vessels Tuesday evening near the Kinmen Archipelago, which, if you remember, those are the islands that are actually really close to the mainland. It's been a very tenuous area there. It lies a short distance off the coast. It's controlled by Taiwan, and Taiwanese maritime authorities have claimed it and always claim it, and they say that their Coast Guard is supposed to patrol it. We've seen other instances in the past where these fishing vessels have been harassed by Chinese Coast Guard, but this, I think, is the first we've heard that they've actually taken one and commandeered it and taken it back to their own port. So Taiwan dispatched 3 vessels to rescue the Ackman 88. But the one that got close to the fishing boats were blocked by 3 Chinese boats and told not to interfere. So you can see how this is getting a little more edgy with the reactions between the coast guards of the 2 countries. And I know that one of those countries doesn't consider the other one a country, but considers it their own. And therein lies the issues. So continue to see these escalations and skirmishes, whether they're with the Philippines or even with Taiwan. Now, we see them encircle the island numerous times here with Taiwan over the last year, and most recently doing it. We've seen them practice for invasions. We've even got experts that have talked about the type of training they've done, where they believe they can even take the palace and many of the specific islands, and even probably start the capture of the main island in under 30 minutes. So that's not a lot of time when you think about reaction from allies to Taiwan that might try to defend them.
And not to mention Kinmen County. This is actually Taiwan. So there's main island Taiwan, and then Kinmen County is a rock's throw. Somebody could throw a rock over to this. This would be gone right away. But they are on high alert right now. And then, of course, when I first saw this, I thought that this was a Philippines Coast Guard, because when I saw the headline, I was like, wait, so this is a Taiwanese fishing vessel that they snatched up. I was surprised, because I was when I was reading it, my brain thought of the Philippines, and of course, they ended up taking a Taiwanese fishing vessel. It's drip feeding us. They're drip feeding us these escalations. They do everything strategically. Everything is 4D chess. It's like they've got, the study groups in a back room saying, like, what should we do next? And then they calculate, like, how are people going to respond to this? What should we do next? They always do this, and it just keeps going up one click at a time, and it's not coming back down. That's what I hope people realize. There's enough military in this group that the chat you should be able to speak with enough military members in here that you should be getting prepped and prepared, and not calling all of this I'm afraid. Like I said the other day, I think that anyone, even the most skeptic person, I'm telling you, skeptics, says, World Wars, they're not doing all that, they're just scaring us. That most skeptic person is at a private barbecue. You have a 4-star, 5-star general, it just happens to be a family friend or something, come over, and you have them at the barbecue. They tell you, yep, by next year we're going to be in a World War III. Guarantee you that skeptic is going to be the first one going, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? What are your suggestions? What do you think I should do? Like, what should I have? I'm unprepared. What should I do? But people need that. They will not do it unless they hear it from the horse's mouth. And that's what's crazy is they will wait until there's a headline saying World War III is here for them to actually believe it's here. I think if you look at the framework and the money that's going in all over the world, and the treaties that are being signed, and the actions that just keep going up on a roller coaster, that roller coaster is going to hit the top and then it's going to drop. So I hope that people are really, really waking up. It's sad, because when all this goes down, the first thing I think that's going to happen is you're not going to have this channel or any channel to go and say, oh, maybe this community was right. But again, Russian submarines spotted on NATO's doorstep spark woes. Now, we actually covered something not too long ago about Russia, and specifically Kaliningrad was involved in the news when they were talking about how Kaliningrad, which is right here, this enclave, they actually mentioned something about extending their area, right? They said, oh, we want to extend that. Well, I guess they popped up right in the middle of NATO territory. And of course, this is kind of like what we just did a couple weeks ago. Russia has twice deployed attack submarines to conduct missions around the Irish Sea since President Vladimir Putin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February. The activities of Russia's Navy in international waters has drawn increased attention in recent months. Last month, Russia deployed a nuclear-powered submarine Kazan warships and other naval vessels to the Caribbean Sea for a planned military drill. Again, it says Russia the first sent a Kilo-class submarine, a diesel-electric attack submarine, which can fire caliber missiles towards the Irish Sea about 18 months ago. The second incident took place more recently, Bloomberg reported on Monday, citing 3 people familiar with the matter. Russian submarines were not known to have previously ventured towards the Irish Sea, which separates the islands of Ireland and Great Britain. And it says Moscow could be deploying its attack submarines in the area to gather intelligence on potential weaknesses in British and Irish sea defenses. Russia could also be attempting to intimidate the UK over its ongoing support for the UKR amid the conflict. Bloomberg sources and U.S. officials are aware of the matter. One thing I've noticed, and you guys should have noticed this as well, Russia is now all over the world, and it's actually a lot different than it was. Dex, have you noticed that? They're doing drills off our west coast. They're doing drills off our east coast. They're doing stuff in Cuba. They're all over the world, similar to what the U.S. would be doing.
Yeah, and if you look back at the map where the Irish Sea is, and you look at just how close this is to Great Britain and Ireland, you would question, man, that is kind of spooky if they're popping up right there, and right in between the 2 islands. The dot that's marked on there should show it to the left. Yep, to the left. I know I'm delayed watching you. You go. Look at that, guys. It's like literally right in between, right in the middle of the UK. I mean, that's literally in the middle of the United Kingdom, right there, smack, in that Irish Sea area is right in between Ireland and Great Britain. So them popping up nuclear subs there is really a sign of force and an intimidation thing, I think, for the UK. And for as much as they have had direct ire with the UK over the conflict in Ukraine, they've often called UK target number 1.
And they're basically popping up. I mean, the equivalent of popping up right off of New York. I mean, they're right by Great Britain, by Manchester, by Liverpool. They're popping up right off their waters. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure they're not too enthused about that. By the way, thank you everybody that has already piled in. Thank you over on DLive. The end is near. Thank you, Chance Paladin. You guys make sure to go check out the mods over on marfooglenews.com/friends. Thank you, Wings and Wags Patriot, for your support yesterday. Cat, Mitch Mouth. Thank you, Redonk, Ray Day, of course, Nevitz, Danish Girl, Tactawolf, Gillian Mason, and then, of course, maybe it's a 007, Joanne Breeze, Bunny Haw, Carlton Sutton, Jerry Shirts 99, and Stephen McMahon. Special shout out to my friends Dave and Laura Reed. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys join us later. And love you guys. All right, and then back over to the map, we're going to be talking about North and South Korea are locked in a dangerous arms race, and Putin may be about to make it worse. Before we do, I do want to remind you guys what our recommendation to protect yourself against one of the most probable events, if we ever do get involved in any kind of major war event, the most probable would be an EMP attack on the U.S. On top of this, we also have a natural event, which people are watching for in Solar Cycle 25, which is a Carrington-level event from the sun. Now, if you want to protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, and boats, and generators, and homes against this, there is a device for pretty much every one of those things that you want to keep running from EMP Shield. All you have to do is wire 3 wires into your vehicle. It takes about 10 minutes, and then your vehicle will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car. That way you can get home to your family to bug in or get out to bug out. The reason I say this is the most probable event, which most of you guys already know, is because it doesn't actually directly take lives to do an EMP strike on a country. It takes down the power grid. It can somewhat indefinitely knock out the power. It can screw things up for up to 2 years, they're saying. And that's assuming that we have a supply chain to replace these things. And it would knock out all of our critical infrastructure, our water, our gas, our food, everything. Everything stops. And all of a sudden, without taking a single life, they have then let us do the work for ourselves. So that is why it's a massive threat. We are seeing that they are responding to this. We're seeing that they're starting to protect their own stuff. So again, they've done work for DHS, DOD, and now they're doing they're officially on the DEMSO team with the Texas grid. So make sure to go protect your own stuff, because nobody's going to do it for you. They're not going to give you a state tax credit to go get your car outfitted with this. You're going to have to do it on your own. It's something you won't need until you need it, and then once you need it, you're going to thank yourself because you were able to get home. If you don't want to walk 25 miles to home, then yeah, it's probably a smart idea. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Use the code MARF. Not only are you getting a $50 off discount, but you're also helping us with the $50, or I'm sorry, you guys get a $50 discount and we get a commission. So thank you guys. We appreciate your support. You support independent media, and you're, of course, protecting yourself at the same time. I believe that's a win-win. And then we have, of course, North and South Korea are locked in a dangerous arms race. Putin may be about to make this worse. So we've talked about North and South Korea and how they've been neck and neck. Russia has had North Korea's back the whole time. They actually just signed a treaty that essentially says that they're going to back each other up in any event. So if Russia is attacked, North Korea's soldiers are supposed to show up. And in the same case, North Korea, if something happens, I don't even know if this treaty lines out, like, what if North Korea first attacks? Is that in the treaty? Can they attack out of nowhere and still be backed up by Russia? I don't know. But of course, last time, the Korean War actually, which has never ended, they've never called it off. It's never officially been called off, involved Russia backing up North Korea, the US and others backing up South Korea. So are we going to see history repeat itself? Well, they're now saying that Vlad is going to make it worse. Dex, do you want to explain why they're saying that?
Well, with the concern now is that with North Korea potentially getting weapons from Vlad, South Korea is going to turn around and ask for more weapons on their side, and or spend their money on creating weapons and building up weapons on their side. You know, one of the interesting things is the South has never put nukes, never built nukes, never wanted to acquire them. They've always just relied on the U.S. to protect them in the case of North Korea using a nuke. You would think that they would want to have their own nukes to basically tell North Korea, you know, you don't use yours, we won't use ours, and have that level of mutual assurance between the two. But they've always just relied on us. So as this continues to ramp up with North, there's expectation now that the South may actually say, you know what, we're going to change our position, we're going to move forward, we're going to invest, we're going to militarize at a much greater level than we have in the past, which will then turn into an arms race and potentially a nuclear one.
So now, if you've got both sides with itchy trigger fingers, it can obviously not end well if either one of them actually pulls it. And I mean, my opinion is that North Korea is going to be one of the first places that it's all going to pop off. Middle East is of course already happening, which you get these weird lulls where nobody's talking about the Middle East right now. Right now, currently as we speak, there is all sorts of chaos going on in the Middle East. And it's like people only worry about it when the news does these kind of ebbs and flows of you know, putting out the crazy stuff. But it's happening 24/7. There's stuff happening right now. Just a couple days ago, they had all of the military loaded up on the borders. With Lebanon, and all of these other parties are getting involved. This isn't going to just go away. And the fact that all of these adversaries that are all in their own like neighbor war right now, the fact that they're all coordinating and backing each other up and doing these written treaties, this should show everybody that something is about to transpire. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. All right, and then Chinese and Russian troops hold joint drill targeting cross-border terrorism. Dex, do you want to go over this? And this is a weird one because even when you read it, you're like, what? But you'll see what we mean.
It sort of is. So look, you know, if you rewind to March, you remember there was about 140 people that were taken out from a attack in Moscow. There have been other attacks. Even recently, there was some attacks that happened in Russia. China has actually said, "Hey, we've been pretty good. We haven't had anything in quite some time," but they're still concerned about it. So they ran a drill where they were trying to focus on boosting intelligence sharing and the operational coordination. And the exercise showed the firm determination of both militaries to take effective measures to combat all forms of this T type stuff, separate type stuff, extreme type stuff, while jointly securing their border areas, according to the report. So they were doing this in a cooperative way, and assuming they had something happening on the line between them, whether it be from somebody on either side, or an actor from another location, obviously coming in and leveraging that border area. So that was the exercise they performed. They say it's not the first time they've held joint drills focused on this type of activity. In 2019, China's paramilitary force took part in a drill with the Russian National Guard that was actually held in Russia. So I
call
guess this makes
BS.
the second time they've done this.
If you look at what they're saying, they're saying last week's joint drill simulated the bad guys attempting to cross the border. So you've got both China and Russia soldiers fighting side by side against what they say is this hypothetical group of what? A single terrorist, right? A bunch of them, 100. They're practicing for something like an actual force, like the United States or another enemy crossing the border, invading or advancing. I think that this is just a thinly veiled joint drill of them actually learning how to fight on the ground against an enemy at their border. Well, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think that there's going to be 10,000, bad guys, T-cell guys that are all running at the same time? I mean, what size drill is this? We don't exactly know. But is it a small group of 8 soldiers and 8 soldiers getting ready? Because you have to understand, these groups that are doing these joint drills, they can handle a lot of just regular, these aren't lone wolf operators. Even if it was hundreds, what are they practicing here? They're practicing for a force, an enemy force crossing the border towards them. What are they drilling to do? They talk about reconnaissance, using air reconnaissance, seeing them coming, maritime interception. So they're talking about boats and things coming their way, and ambushes on land to block and seize during the exercise. So I don't know. It sounds like they're practicing for something completely different, and they say this, and nobody bats an eyelash. What do you guys think? Do you guys see that? Do you guys see what I'm saying? Dex, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I guess how many times do we see? I guess, are they going to have coordinated terrorists all going towards their border and crossing? Or are they saying that they're going to use their militaries together to stop a massive force of migration? Like, is that what they're doing? I don't know. It just doesn't.
Well, the area that seems to be most important to China is Xinjiang. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. That is the western edge, which is just below, like eastern, southern Russia. And it's the area that bumps up against, say, Tajikistan and getting closer to places like Afghanistan and locations like that. Now, we go back to the event that happened in Moscow. Of course, everybody but Russia says it came from some K group out of, that area, which is why they gave them a new name. But, Russia certainly says, no, it was UKR that did it. They don't want to say it was somebody from, Uzbekistan or Tajikistan or Tajikistan, wherever it may have been. But this is also, you got to think that China's borders go all the way over there. So to the extent that they may be looking at it from that point of view, especially as there's a lot of human rights issues going on in China with people that are of the religion in that area, that could be part of it. So that at least gives a little bit of potential clarity to why they may be doing this. But I certainly don't dismiss what you're saying at all, Adam, because there's certainly other opportunities that are afoot here.
And if there's, these T cells, right? it's like both sides are funding these T groups. They added the K. These are most likely three-letter agency funded things. We know that even the ones that they say were involved in all of the stuff 20 years ago, that there's ties back to the US, there's ties back to Russia, there's ties to all of these different groups at one point or another. It's like just like the cartels. And to say there's two cartels fighting, the U.S. will go, oh, well, we really don't like this cartel, so let's help arm this smaller cartel and help them defeat this bigger cartel, because the bigger cartel won't do what we want them to do. So they then arm the small cartel and turn a blind eye when they do certain things just so they can beat the big cartel. They've done that, and I'm sure the same thing is working out. What's crazy, though, is you are actually dealing with people with these religious backgrounds. So it's really messed up that you think that these people are on the lower ends that really, they're super devoted to their religious thoughts, to everything else, but somebody up in the ranks above them is most likely just somebody who's paid and giving them orders, and they think they're doing it for whatever reason, when most likely their leaders are just doing it for the highest bidder. I don't know. It just seems, it's like every single time this kind of stuff happens, you wait 20 or 30 years, you find out that somebody funded it. All of the crazy turmoil around the world, all the protests, all of the leaders, getting taken out, from the former prime minister of Japan to, Maduro, drones going after him, these kind of things. The one guy that had 20 people where one person was connected to a guy in Florida, raiding a palace and taking the guy out. It's like all of these events, I believe that 95% of them are all some sort of funded thing by one state actor or the other. And it's like you see all these proxies, but really, they say, oh, it's this T group against that T group or that. Really, I think it all comes down to the three-letter agencies around the world. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Iran vows to back Hezbollah in fight with Israel as IRGC general renews threat of imminent missile strike. Again, imminent. Meaning that it will happen at some point, right? And again, it says Iran vowed on Tuesday to back the T organization, Hezbollah, by all means against Israel if Jerusalem launches an offensive in neighboring Lebanon. Karal Kharazi, Iranian foreign minister and top advisor to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah, issued a stark warning that a conflict in Lebanon could result in a regional war involving all Arab nations. That's biblical, okay? Dex, I mean, isn't this like stuff straight out of prophecy at this point? Like what we're envisioning if this happens, like this is biblical at this point.
It certainly is a big deal when you think about all of everyone going against Israel would make a big deal. And we've, certainly history has shown us that in the past. But, the other question I would ask of this is what do they mean by launching an offensive? Because we've already seen the IDF do, raids and launches into Lebanon already. We reported that a few days ago. So has that line been crossed, or do they don't consider that the red line? Is their red line a little different? And I'm not dismissing this by any means, because I'm sure they all want to talk a big game, but what do they really mean by it, and where are we on this? Because we know that it's at the brink, because we've seen that Israel has been moving troops there. They've been bringing in equipment. They've been getting ready, and they've even talked about it. And they said, hey, we're going to do it if they continue to do what they're doing. And of course, in Lebanon, they continue to launch. They've just recently launched more stuff. So if they continue it, at what point does it escalate, and what is the definition of that, offensive, as they call it? If they, by all means, if they launch an offensive into neighboring Lebanon, what is that? What is the line, I guess? Because that's what we want to know, so that we know when it really goes down, or if they're just bluffing. And I don't think they're bluffing, because I really think they're all itching for the opportunity to do this. But I don't know that, it's obviously not the right thing for the citizens that aren't involved, the people that are just living their lives on any side, because conflict and war is just a horrible, nasty thing for the people in the middle.
And the quote, all Lebanese people, Arab countries, same thing almost, and members of the axis of resistance. Again, I the other day I was trying to remember what they're calling. It's not the axis of evil. The axis of resistance will support Lebanon against Israel. There would be a chance of expansion of the war to the whole region, in which countries, including Iran, would become engaged. So they're talking about a regional war to put all other wars to shame. And what is actually happening in Lebanon right now, along the border, there's thousands and thousands of vehicles and troops and all sorts of gear, tanks, everything you can think of. So what do most people predict is going to happen? I guess we'll see. And all of this at the same time as all of this crazy, like, where everybody's being inundated with this whole Prez versus Prez thing right now. And I tell you, it is important, but at some point you hear the same talking points all day, every day about what's going on. What's crazy is most people probably know, it doesn't matter what news station they were watching or what clips or highlights they were watching, probably have heard that everybody thinks what happened the other night where the two of them faced off, that was set up on the side that everybody thought was going to make it like absolutely in their favor. So if that's what everybody's saying, including the side, and they're saying, oh, well, we just realized, like, we got to find somebody else. Why is this all happening now? And Dex, you made a great point earlier. Our current Prez is on like this huge tour. You would almost think that he's getting put in front of everybody to prove like, oh no, wait, that was just like an hour and a half of mistake. Now he's on top of the ball, but every appearance has been, up there with what happened the other night. So why
even on a teleprompter, it's a mess still.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're putting him out in front. I mean, look, 4 years ago he was, in the basement and never did a press conference, and now all of a sudden they did this, and they've got him in the last few days. They're running him out and putting him in front of everybody. So yeah, it's weird. It's certainly weird.
And he's everywhere. Like, Dex, how many interviews? Like, what would you say, 4 or 5 now since that night?
Yeah, or at least
appearances?
Public appearances. He's done numerous appearances and spoken numerous times, and some without a teleprompter and many with.
And by the way, there are so many people that just get triggered even talking about it. But we're not saying anything about either side. We're pointing out what is happening. You should really look outside the box. Like, why is it happening? Why are both sides now in agreement on this? What is actually going to happen? Even the most independent of groups like the Turks and everything, they're just like, oh, this guy's got to go. Like, this is craziness. This close. I mean, we're talking about 5 months away. All of a sudden, just switch out? Oh, wait, we all saw that coming. So if we all saw that coming, what else that we have been seeing coming for years is going to come? I mean, are people going to be super surprised when somebody like Newsom is all of a sudden the person up against T-Man? No. Everybody's going to know, because independent channels 3 years ago, all of our peers, we were all talking about it 2 years ago. And now all of a sudden, in fact, the day when they put in like, oh, well, they'll do this now, but then they'll switch out. Everybody said the VP would become, or this would happen, or the ex-lady, whatever. It's been talked about, and now it's here. Think about all the other things that we have all been talking about, that we see the framework for, that we see the signs for, and you think those things aren't going to happen too? Yet everything we see the framework being built for It happens. They're building the framework for World War III. I guarantee it. And it took me years to really have the courage to tell people that, because I just hated people saying, "Oh, nothing's going to happen." I don't think that that's true. I think we are headed right into it. That doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that the whole planet's going to implode on itself. It just means things are about to get really, really crazy, and there's going to be a power structure change. There's going to be, I mean, we can all handle it. Heck, if we lasted through the last 5 years, you think we can't take another 5 years, another 10 years? The people that really should be concerned about it, though, is the people that have active duty military in their family, because they might actually see a massive conflict. And we could very well lose power. We could lose all the things that we take for granted. And that's why every day you should be thankful of our existence on Earth and being alive and having all of these great things that distract us. People get mad about all the distractions happening, but heck, I feel blessed that we have distractions on a daily basis. Just those distractions says that we're living in a pretty awesome world. Those distractions are pretty advanced compared to what we would, I don't know if we're better off 200 years ago, before we had all of these things, when everybody was independent and self-reliant and self-sufficient, or right now where we have all of these things that we're completely dependent on power and the internet of things and communications like this. Because when it all goes down, how many people do you know that know how to hunt their own food? How many people do you know that have, supplies in their pantry enough for 3 months, 6 months, and a year? I bet that number you can count on probably your one hand, right? But I don't know. And then Lufthansa cancels night flights to Lebanon as U.S. and others issue travel warnings. So Lufthansa, I think I'm saying that right, has halted night flights to Beirut, according to Monday report, becoming the latest entity to react to the security situation in Lebanon amid tensions on the border with Israel. So really the headline says it all. They're canceling flights and they're halting these night flights. It seems like they're probably doing this based on some pretty solid information. We might see some things go down. Again, spokespeople for Lufthansa did not immediately respond. Swiss International Airlines, a subsidiary of Lufthansa Group, said it would move its Beirut night flights to the daytime, citing the political developments at the border between Lebanon and Israel, Reuters reported. The U.S. Embassy in Lebanon said in an alert on Monday that it has been informed of adjustments to flight schedules by Lufthansa, Swiss International Airlines, and Eurowings, including short-notice flight cancellations between Saturday and July 31st. The embassy reiterated its travel advisory for the country in the alert, saying the U.S. citizens should reconsider travel due to the security situation. So they're kind of also giving a time frame here. So are we going to see something kind of in this period, right? And they said that while Lebanon remains at a level 3, meaning citizens should reconsider travel, southern Lebanon, the Syrian border, and the refugee settlements are at a level 4, indicating citizens should not travel there. Dex, go ahead.
No, you got it. I wanted to hit those levels. I thought those were important to understand.
Yeah, so again, the different areas, it's like, oh, well, you probably shouldn't go there. Certain areas, they're saying just don't go. So,
yeah, and that southern area is specifically where those strikes that we talked about earlier that Israel's been doing have happened, which sort of ask, where's that red line, right? Because they've been hitting all in the south there. So, and obviously that would make the most sense why you would tell our citizens not to go there. I think we're on the brink here of them saying, hey, everybody get out. And, we've didn't we just report the WASP assault ship is in the area, which can help aid any evacuations in that area as well. So,
yep, from the amphibious assault carrier group. So you've got all of our military basically waiting to pull up with drop ships and take people on. Is it gonna? And they're setting up the framework, and most of that was quiet. Most people just kind of brushed right over that in like 8 hours. People weren't caring about that. Fast forward a few days, I bet you're going to see in the next few days that all of that's going to matter a whole lot more. So it's almost like they knew exactly what was going to happen before it happened. And you saw the framework of it being done. And then the next headlines are going to say they're evacuating all of these people. And they're evacuating citizens the best they can. So, let's see. Going back over to the chat, thank you guys for all popping in. Wings and Wags Patriot, Mitch Mouth, Redonk. Nice to see you guys. Thank you, Enigma. Thank you, Sterile. Thank you, of course, Pawn Shop Rare, Resistance Homesteading, Josh P. Of course, Parker Craft, Sweatin' Ministries. I hope you're doing well. Robert A. C. Esta Adventures, FSRD. Of course, Awakened Believer, Lord McCormick, and Mark Fragola. Thank you guys. Again, Azrael76, and so many more. Bill Fortenberry and Neil Nelson, I hope you're doing well today. Thank you so much for the super thanks on the other show. I know you can't make it to all the lives because of the time, but thank you for always popping by on the replays. Same with that, and Whack1855 saying thank you on the Fire Was Just Lit show. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then let's see here. And then we have Dex. Do you want to go over the U.S. nuclear fears as Iran targets African uranium?
Certainly. And real quick, Genius by Birth. Thanks for all the membership giving. That's so awesome of you. Look, what's happening in now West Africa is the concern. They're saying that Iran is trying to source uranium from there. And I know we have talked quite a bit about Africa and how Africa is starting to play many roles. We've seen the U.S. kicked out of Niger, and Russia rolled in, or Russia actually rolled in, and we were occupying 2 locations with them, and then they kicked us out. We're seeing all sorts of power plays go on in Africa. But this one's very interesting because they're saying that Iran is trying to secure or source uranium specifically out of West Africa. And they do have they say they have one of the most advanced nuclear programs in the world. We always, report these different reports. They're 1 day away, they're 2 weeks away, they're a month away. They've in 5 minutes, they'll have enough to make their first nuke. We don't know. We don't know if they've ever done it. I think if they have done it, they wouldn't even tell anybody. They'd probably hide that for now because they like the fact that everyone thinks they don't have it yet. They're just on the brink, and everybody keeps making up these time frames, kind of like they make up strange size references to meteors as they fly by Earth. But yes, this is also important, though, to think about what is happening and who is in control and in power with the resources that are available that are coming out of Africa. As we continue to advance, there is quite a bit of uranium there, and we'll have to pay attention to this. Obviously, there's a lot of scrutiny being paid over the fact that they appear to be working closely there to try to extract uranium for their nuclear needs.
By the way, that's funny. I'm also following the live chase of there's a bus. It's pretty much looks like it's over. Like it went into a Home Depot, I think. But I actually see some Foogle fam, iPet Goat 2, and some other folks in there. Marty McFly, I believe, is a Foogle fam. Some other folks in there. That's crazy. So yeah, I guess there was a like a big bus chase. So I think it's at its end. But you said how they
Where was that?
Los Angeles.
Oh wow.
And so I was gonna see if I could add it, but yeah, I think it's over. And they're saying that the cops, it's taken them a long time to get into the Home Depot. But when you said that, did you see my tweet? So you guys, I've pointed this out for years. You guys know this. When they say an asteroid's about to pass Earth the size of the Giza pyramid, right? I've seen that one like 10 times. But they'll say as large as a megalodon shark. Or an asteroid the size of the Eiffel Tower. The other day, I saw the stupidest one I've ever seen. It said it's an asteroid the size of a group of lions. And I'm like, How many people are going to be able to envision that and then go, oh, a group of lions? And it wasn't even specific. It was like, oh, how big is a group of lions? Like, you're trying to think in your head. It was like maybe it was 140 lions or something. And I'm like, who the heck knows how big 140 lions is? It was the stupidest description I've ever seen by far. But I'm
was
like,
it coming out of an African news agency?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess it should be.
I mean, we don't have a clue. Lions, yeah, we see one or two in the zoo, right?
Is it bigger than a bread box? Like, I don't know. How big is a 100 lions? Like, I've pointed out the weirdest ones. It's like the size of 2 megalodons. I know how big a megalodon is, but most people don't. And how many people know a freaking... It's on my Twitter right now. It's a real article, and if you Google it, you'll find it. It's like, what? I think they're letting AI... I think AI is on autopilot. Half of the newspapers are just straight up just saying, AI, you take over. You just do it. Make your own decisions. In fact, whatever. And you know how I know that this is happening? And maybe they're just bad editors or they're just not checking it, is because CNET admitted it. CNET said that they did. This was a while ago when it was first, before like ChatGPT even caught on. They said that they did 71 articles before they did an article stating that 71 of their most recent articles were all done with AI, with ChatGPT, or some form of it, right? And it's like, they said that they were like not spell checking it, but checking it and editing it. But they basically said that 71 articles were done by AI. What happens when you seriously have AI being our source for information? Like, AI is not perfect yet. If you've ever tried to have AI do a picture or anything or do a logical question, it doesn't do it right. It's still not perfected. That's for dang sure. Before we move on, make sure to go check out Jase. This is really important for those of you that are caregivers, or for those of you that have a medication you take every day, or for those of you that, again, don't have any antibiotics on hand. Jase Medical is a great service that you can actually get something called the Jase case, which is their most popular. It's a kit of life-saving antibiotics in a handy pack, which you can also add things to. Like, you can say, oh, well, I want to custom add albuterol. There's all sorts of other things you can add in. Again, go check for the list of things I can't pronounce. So you can also get those in there as well. But it's a very easy process. You just do a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor, and you're done. It's on the way. As far as with their Jase Daily, that's super important, because if you can get a 12-month extended supply of your regular medications. Now, I'm sure not all medications apply or work, but if there is something you take every single day that's not like a class 3 whatever, then there's a good chance that they will probably be able to give you a 12-month supply of it. That means if the lights go off tomorrow, or if there's a bad storm, there's another Hurricane Katrina, there's power outage for 10 days, you've got yourself your medication, and you have a 12-month supply that is always going to come. And you can, I believe they send a month, and then you rotate it into your normal supply. So you'll always have a year of your regular medications. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jase and make sure to use the code MARF. Not only will you save on it, but you'll help us and support our channel. Thank you guys for doing so. I would say it's up to you when you want to do that, but there's not going to be mail order telehealth appointments if things go down. So definitely want to do it beforehand, not after. And then Defense Secretary Austin says that the U.S. will provide $2.3 billion more military aid in Ukraine. It's pretty simple to see they're not going to give up anytime soon. And especially after the comments of saying that they have $10 to $12 trillion worth of minerals there that they don't want Russia to get their hands on. It's pretty clear. Like, this is now about resources. This isn't going to end anytime soon. They're not going to let that country go. If it's between some of the most amazing farmland there, the best soil in the world, or the minerals underneath it, they have a vested interest in UKR. So it's just another $2.3 billion, and it is now approved. And I believe most of the time now they say, oh, it's mostly equipment, and this equipment is then built by U.S. companies that it hires U.S. people, so it's actually a good thing. But I would ask you guys, do you think this is a good thing, just shelling out endless money? Meanwhile, we have vets on our own streets that are going hungry and homeless, and half of them have huge issues with loopholes and can't even get their insurance properly taken care of, or they have issues to where they can't get what they need. It's like that's happening, right? Our infrastructure's falling apart. We have massive inflation, and yet we're sending money to a country we're not even allied with, or I guess we're allied with, but it's not even a part of NATO. So what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments below, or tag me over on X. You can actually go over to X at Marfoogle, and you can tag me right now. What do you think about the extra $2.3 billion going towards Ukraine? I'd love to hear from you. Again, that is over on X. All you have to do is look for the banner right here. Boom, boom, boom. And make sure to follow. All right. And then Dex, AI begins ushering in an age of killer robots. Terminators.
Yeah. So look, the example they're giving, and this is the interesting thing, is this is more real world because of the location. But you got to understand this stuff is being developed all around us, especially here in the U.S. inside R&D facilities. But in the fields, on the outskirts of Kiev, a UKR drone company was demonstrating its ability to basically set it and forget it with a drone that leveraged AI and its camera, where the operator would lock onto a target and then tell it to take it out. And no matter what happened, that drone would follow them and take them, follow the path and get within a distance of being able to take the person out. Now they did it, they were demonstrating it, a person on a motorcycle, and they were in radio contact with them, telling them to, basically keep going as fast as you can. It's on your tail, hurry up, it's going to catch you. And sure enough, the AI system and the drone would catch to him and would be in position where it could have taken him out. Obviously, it wasn't a loaded instant because they're doing a demonstration, but this is a real world location where it's not just about a demonstration, because they can probably go, a couple miles north and actually put it to use. And that's what they're doing. So this is important for us to think about how this technology isn't just the dreams in an AI lab, isn't just the R&D and something that they're showing off in a field, but it's actually going to be put to use, and it probably already is put to use in the battlefield that's happening right now in Europe. And the more that this shows promise and the more that it shows success, the more everyone's going to buy into it and advance it further and further and further. And that's the scary part. And when I say that, I really mean, like, when you think about how this tech, whether it be, non-lethal capabilities that a drone could throw against somebody, that's something that could easily be adopted by your local police departments. We see militarization of technology go from the military to law enforcement, almost overnight sometimes. So yeah, watch this stuff. It's going to happen, and it's happening quickly. And like they said, they're using very low budget stuff, and they were able to put AI into it with a camera, obviously a one-way potential use. And maybe they can reuse it, but even if it's not like they're spending a ton of money on this. It's a very cheap, setup that they have, that they're able to, buy it once and let it be thrown away, because it's not that expensive to buy another one and build another one.
Yeah, and soon they'll be on the top of SWAT raid vans, and they'll take off and be able to monitor and even take care of threats. I think it's cool that the first page shows something very different, but I would think that's a 50 cal or even something. I don't know. Do you guys think that's a 50 cal? I don't know if it says the description, but as you can see, there's a camera on the front, probably with optics of all sorts, thermal and all that that's hooked up to a computer. It's got these hydraulics that aim it, and this thing sets up. You got this guy with what looks like an Xbox controller. It actually may be an Xbox controller or PlayStation or something like that, because that's what they use. And they can target and, who knows, shoot how far. This thing could possibly shoot 2 miles and be precise. Think about sniper positions will even be gone in the future because they'll have computers do it. Think about how, and by the way, Army snipers, that's an incredible skill. When they're dealing with minute winds and they have to think about bullet drop over a mile, the farthest, I think, was a Canadian guy that did like almost 2 miles or over 2 miles. I think it was Canada. But the guy, went through this way over, had bullet drop, and got somebody. It was like the longest confirmed kill ever. I bet you these things will be able to beat that by, it could take somebody out 10 miles away or something if they have enough height. Like, it's crazy. Every position is going to be taken by robot. But very soon, will you even have people fighting? You'll have one of these take out another one of these on the other side, and the people will be somewhere else, probably back in some container controlling them. The future war is going to be just gonzo. And then Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. Check this out. And China is racing to set up the standards for a brain-machine interface. So we've all talked about Elon Musk's and Neuralink and all of this. Well, China has no red tape to cut, and they're working on the brain interfaces, and they're doing some scary stuff. China will set up a committee to develop standards for the use of brain-computer interface, or BCI technology, as Beijing increases its focus on future technologies amid growing competition for tech supremacy with the West. Under a plan issued on Monday by the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, the public will have until July 30th to submit suggestions for setting up the committee for, quote, the needs of industrial development and industry management. There's been a lot of crazy videos coming out and a lot of bad info, actually, about different things. There was a video that people were posting. I reposted this, said, if this is real, that's disturbing. But it ended up being facelifts or something. But people say that they were doing face transplants there. Well, it turns out they are doing face transplants. Those weren't it. But there's all sorts of these super, super advanced things that really, a lot of the times in the U.S. or other countries, they have to have these debates about, or there'll be protests, or this is, morally, is this right? China doesn't have to have that. And sadly, that's a huge advantage when you're talking about things where they can go secretly test on some prisoners and get something done 10 times as fast. Now, what's even scarier about that is if you were going to try to keep up with that, you wouldn't say it to the public, but the U.S. and other countries, they're most likely doing the same thing, but they're doing it with black projects that don't tell us. Think about that. If China has no red tape to cut and they're doing things, they could possibly even grab people right out of prison involuntarily and say, well, your life in prison is now a sentence to basically, we'll give your family $100 and you're now our guinea pig and we're going to turn you into this. If they're doing that, then yeah, there's all of this bureaucratic red tape in the United States that we have to follow by. But you think that these three-letter agencies and these DARPAs and this and that they aren't? I don't know. I don't believe it. I think that they would just do it in secret and put a black project on it, and it would just be, the black files. Like, you're never going to know it actually happened. Or if they get caught, they're going to just denounce and say, oh, that's not us. So it's kind of scary to see if we do know that China is doing really, really crazy stuff. And of course, the brain interface is now the newest thing. We're going to be able to connect directly to computers through our brain. They're going to pull wickedly ahead if we don't end up doing the same kind of stuff. By the way, Dex, I was going to get your opinion on this, but first of all, Lisa Douglas, thank you for supporting Independent, and thank you for being here for a very long time. Says, haven't had a chance to support you because of some minor surgeries. Last 5 months and a few more to come, but they are not life-threatening. Thanks, Marfoogle. I never miss a show. Lisa Douglas, always take care of yourself first. And Lisa, thank you. As far as your surgeries, yeah, I believe I have one coming up myself. So I completely understand. Thank you for supporting us. Again, thank you, and thank you. Lisa, thank you for supporting Independence. And then Stephen McMahon, off to work, stay salty. Love y'all. Thank you, Stephen McMahon. And thank you, of course, Kimbria, Michigan Travis. The end is near. And Shugs and MC Dirty Work. Thank you, guys. Dex, as far as the brain interface, I mean, there's also another point here that's a pretty big one.
Well, I mean, look, we talked about how these BCIs are going to be used for, everything from, advancing or shortening your time in a prison to helping fight off or defend against capabilities of AI and potentially singularity when that day comes. But look, this is really a scary thing when we think about how it is advancing so quickly. I mean, we just saw Elon put something into the first human trial. The person who was a quadriplegic was able to basically use his brain to full-on control a computer. We're not just talking about up, down, left, and right. I mean, there was pretty much any type of input he wanted to do, he could do to the computer. And that was awesome for the human that needed that. It's awesome for that person. I mean, it gave them new life, so to speak. And there's a whole lot of great things that have come from the abilities that, BCI or brain computer interfaces will bring about. But man, the flip side, and how do we control this or rein it in or prevent it from being used for the bad is what's, I think is so, I mean, that's such a slippery slope, just like AI is right now. And there's so much that's unknown. I mean, we're not there yet. It's not like they can just, walk up behind you and all of a sudden tap your brain, or at least we don't think they are. Maybe in some lab they've done that. But the day comes when we think about how much they try to program us on our phones and on the small device that we spend so much time on, whether it's, watching content or reading social media or reading news or playing games or doing whatever. They're always trying to program things to us. Imagine what it's going to be like when they have the ability to tap directly into your brain. That's a power that should not be wielded lightly. And I'm very concerned with the future of the world when that becomes the norm.
And so just want to point out in this is really important. China is attempting to close the technology gap with the United States, which has led the way for many years. It says Chinese tech titans Alibaba Group Holding, which Alibaba.com, most of you have heard of this. You don't exactly think of brain-computer interface. The owner of South China Morning Post, which, again, all of these are connected directly to the CCP. And Tencent Holdings. If you haven't, if you play any kind of cell phone game, you've probably seen Tencent. Tencent also owns rights to games like PUBG. Okay, this is massive IP. Same with other games, and I believe Tencent actually helped with Call of Duty's mobile, which is a massive moneymaker machine. I could be wrong about that. I think Tencent helped with their engine after they made PUBG, just the mobile version. But it's like companies like this, which are also making these games millions of kids are playing around the world. That money that's filtering from millions of Americans into PUBG or from this or from that, it's going directly back to the CCP. It's crazy how integrated they are into our society. These companies. I cannot believe all of the youth, the same youth that use TikTok, all of them use Temu. My 18-year-old is literally like everybody uses Temu. Everybody orders off of Temu. They've made it an addicting game on Temu to the point where my 8-year-old has been, oh, can we get some from Temu? Oh, you get this for free. The kids point out, you look at all the stuff you get for free, but you have to spend money to get it for free. I had to explain that. I had to say, this isn't free. You have to spend $50 to get it, and these are all really like bad knockoff things, and they're selling it. I'm not saying anything about Temu directly, but we all know. Everybody says, oh, it's the Temu version of The Rock, or, it's become a meme. But what they have done is, to the youth, they've basically made it into a game and into this addicting thing. Same with media, same with everything. I talked about how their movies are going up to par with ours. And of course they're not the same, and you can tell still. But I'm talking about the big budget films that China's doing and putting out with American actors like John Cena, of course, right? John Cena did one with Jackie Chan. Horrible movie. I couldn't watch more than 10 minutes of it. The first 10 minutes, I was like, I forget what it was even called. It was such a bad movie. People like John Cena and Jackie Chan doing these movies for China. These big the big budget movies, they're getting closer. They're copying everything we have done, from how America has had propaganda through media, how America has spread around the world with their bases and their military. They took notes. And I tell you what, if it's not happening now, it's happening over time, and they're starting it. They're going to try to copy the U.S.'s success. The only problem is the U.S. also had these checks and balances. China doesn't. So I think it's really scary to think of them possibly becoming in singularity with the U.S. or becoming number one at some point. That's creepy. And then
that Temu, Adam, I logged into it after my kids told me about it, and I was like, I cannot believe that that's what they're doing. Like it almost feels like a game. It's like shopping is a game. Look what you've won. You can pick from this, and I was enamored. Now I get why the kids like it. It kind of reminds me of, and I think some of the older people in our audience will remember the days of the stamps you could get.
Yes.
You could collect the stamps, or even better, what was it? The Columbia House, music. You could sign up and you think, oh, you get 7 CDs or 7 tapes back then, 7 cassettes for a penny, and then before you know it, you're dropping like $29.99 a month, and you forget about it, and they're sending you the most garbage albums you ever wanted to listen to.
Or
yeah,
the guy that did the Pepsi jet, the jet, was it Pepsi? I think it was Pepsi that saw the Harrier commercial of the Harrier jet, and it said 7 million points, and he's like, wait a second. Basically, he did the math. It was $3.5 million or something, and he ended up getting it for, he got an investor, a real investor, to buy enough sodas to get the points off of the cans. And it ended up, he was able to do it for $300,000 because apparently he found a loophole in the catalog where they sold all these things. The Harrier jet was jokingly there. They were thinking that it was so sarcastic. Oh, 7 million points. Well, 7 million points, it's a $35 million jet. And if you actually do the math on 7 million points, it was like $3.5 million. Well, then they found a loophole in the thing. This smart 20-year-old kid goes, wait a second. In the actual catalog, it says you can buy, if you don't buy, no purchase necessary, you can get our points directly from us for 10 cents per point or whatever it was. And he ended up getting it for $700,000 or $800,000 or something. He did the math. He sent them a check. They got it. They waited like a couple weeks and they sent it back. They're like, ha ha, funny. Here's your Harrier jet or something like that, and sent him a couple free pops. Well, his investor, this eccentric dude, was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And the kid was not giving up. He's like, no, I want my Harrier jet. It shows a guy on the commercial flying a Harrier jet. It doesn't say that this is a joke. It doesn't say any of that. They immediately went and changed the ad to say, just kidding, or something like that. They ended up suing. I think somehow the guy, I didn't watch the rest of the documentary about it, but I think he somehow got a used one or something like that. But he went through years of these battles, and it was all over the news. You guys remember that? Dex, did you remember that? It was a big news thing back in the 80s.
Yeah, I think didn't he settle? He got paid? I don't think he got a jet, though.
They kept showing him in the documentary with the jet in the background, or a used one or something like that.
Oh.
He got a used one.
Yeah, I remember. I remember hearing about it.
But the point is, these things that they do, it's like, those are, by the way, I miss those. The Camel Bucks, the Marlboro dollars. My mom smoked just packs a day. She collected all of those, and I loved going through that catalog. And I didn't care. I was a kid, and I wanted a Marlboro jacket. Like, how many of you wanted a Marlboro leather jacket or something like that? I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And cereal top boxes and all of these things. Now cereal gives you junk. We used to get toys when we were kids in cereal boxes. You used to be able to buy 2 cereal boxes. This is how crazy it was. You just bought 2 cereal boxes, and you could get like a hat, like of a $15 value. Now you could get an actual hat for 2 cereal boxes, or get a cool book, or get something and send your UPCs away. Now they don't give you anything. The kids' meals that these kids get, they suck. The toys suck. Everything sucks. We used to get glasses and VHS movies like Batman and Happy Meals. Now they don't get squat. These kids really, I'm sad for the youth of today. Like, I know we're all those grumpy old people that are like, get off my lawn. Back in my day, we didn't do this. But back in our day, we really did have it better and worse at the same time. We played on playgrounds with sharp, edgy rocks instead of this soft, love foam that they put in playgrounds now. But man, we had so much better of a life as kids. We weren't allowed inside the house. You played outside. I just saw a TikTok that the genius woman, she goes, it was like, it was a young guy, and it was a Stitch, and he's like, you guys drank out of the hose? What was wrong with you? Why couldn't you go inside? She's like, we couldn't go inside. We weren't allowed inside. And it's so funny because she says, we were playing with, 10-inch jarts. And it's funny because I have a jart scar. And it basically said that, like, they had a commercial back in the day. Do you know where your children are? That came on every night at 10 p.m.? It's because they literally had to remind parents, like, hey, you have kids. These kids nowadays, oh man, I do not want to see this, especially this even next generation that completely grew up with phones and everything else. Imagine a war with all these kids. They can't go 5 feet away from the plug-in. How are they going to be rushing into a battle proud for their country when all of them hate the country they live in? They hate the rulers. They hate the leaders. Even if they're a fan of the current prez, how are they simultaneously absolutely hating of everything American? I don't get how this system's going to work for much longer. Do you guys? I don't. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Life sucks compared to when we were kids. And the older you are, I bet you probably actually had it better and better and better. But I digress. I'm a fan. I honestly, if we lost all power, I think there's a lot of people like me that almost wouldn't mind all the technology going backwards. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you feel like me some days? And then U.S. soldiers will get electronic warfare backpacks later this year. So they're getting these scanners and these jammers, right? When this finally loads, essentially they're spending $100 million, I believe it is. I'll know here in a second when it finally loads. They're spending $100 million on these backpacks that are essentially electronic warfare packs. And this is a very similar thing to what is actually happening in Russia and Kiev. And Russia's soldiers have these. And my thought about this is that everything is going towards the electronic warfare tip. Everything is going towards this. That's why, again, I think that people really need to think about things like EMP shield, things like that, because this is the future of warfare, turning off the lights, knocking out communications, knocking out what our current modern world is dependent on. But U.S. soldiers are going to get these packs, and they're spending a whole lot of money on this. Why? Well, they could just be modernizing the military. They might say, hey, in Russia, these are working extremely well. The Russians are jamming everything. They even see much into Europe. You've got GPS jammed. You've got signals jammed. You've got all of these areas in Europe that their signal is jammed all the way from Russia, from the conflict that they're fighting. So they're actually investing $100 million to equip, train, and field the system dubbed the Terrestrial Layer System. Brigade Combat Team, get this, Man-Pack. Yes, finally, a Man-Pack will be cool. According to the Army press statement released Monday, the Man-Pack is designed by Mastodon Design, and the system is on track to be the first dismounted electromagnetic support program of the record for the Army. So they're straight up calling it basically an EMP attack and an EMP support program, or electromagnetic support program for soldiers. That should tell you what our next conflict is going to be like when it actually hits. Dex, also, some of the comments surrounding this were kind of freaky. Imagine if you've got soldiers, even your own country's soldiers, say hypothetically, we'll just use a Brazilton, okay, a hypothetical country, and their military has $100 million worth of these packs. Say hypothetically you have those soldiers invade their own country, possibly with soldiers that don't really care about that country that they grabbed off the street and told them, hey, you've got to arrest your fellow Braziltons. They walk through the streets and they cut off all communications without actually hurting the infrastructure. That's also a weird thought that some commenters had. Of course, they used a different country for example, but Dex, I mean, like, we were talking about this earlier. It's like now electromagnetic warfare is the future. This is the future of warfare. It's all robot versus robot, electro versus electro. This is where we're at now.
Yeah, certainly. And everything is in the electromagnetic spectrum, as they call it, and it's the new battlefield. And look, we have seen what they are doing in the real time, and this goes back to what I said earlier about the AI robots or drones, if you want to call it that. They're not just being developed and experimented with in labs, they're being put to use on the actual battlefield. Well, all of this is being put to use on the field there in Europe. Both Russia and the West has been doing this to each other. So the fact that, and more specifically, Russia's been learning how to jam all of our equipment, which is giving them a great advantage, especially as it relates to what they've been doing with the GPS jamming and how they have jammed a lot of the other information systems that are being used with the guidance systems of other munitions that we've sent in. So that's on one hand a weakness, but on the other hand, it is obvious that we're using that, real world example as an opportunity for us to develop next level weaponry like this so that we have it and we can use it in the coming conflicts. And again, where does it stop? And who's going to have access to all of this? And what are they going to be able to do with it, even at a layer that may not be on a foreign land, but on the homeland? And I think that's what's concerning too for many.
Exactly. What could they do if the wrong person gives the order, right? That's what they've worried about since, what was that? I think the year was 76, but it wasn't this century. It was a couple back. Yeah. Jerry Shirts 99 says, I sometimes think the same thing about technology, Marf, but then I think I don't want to go back to making patterns by hand. Canvas boat covers. Canvas boat covers. That's cool. Yeah, my wife crochets. I think she has to use patterns, right? Yeah. And I know she uses YouTube for that. And then Tom Cogswell, that's why Justin Trudeau loves China. Yeah. Well, he admires Xi Jinping. He said it. He said, "Oh, he admires how he can get things done because he doesn't have to have any bureaucratic red tape, right?" Which, I mean, you could see the logic in that statement. It is true. And before anything else, make sure to go over and check out Energy. If you don't have a backup power supply, especially Californians, I hope that you guys are looking into something like this earlier. A lot of Californians actually went up to 8 days. No disaster. Well, I guess you could call it a disaster, but there was no SHTF. They did rolling blackouts in California in some places as long as 8 days. In a place like California, solar generators are perfect. You guys have tons and tons of sun, long days, and of course, something like this will keep you running the entire time. This is a solar generator, and it's made by one of the best companies out there. This is Energy. They actually just got picked. This generator specifically, the Flex Tactical, is now shipping out with the U.S. Army under the STTR Phase 2 contract. I would say the only downside to this, because there's so many positives, it's modular, it's expandable up to 96 batteries. You can add bricks like Legos that change its overall use. You can hook up portable, foldable panels and take them with you. This thing is super awesome. Only downside is the weight. And the weight is also because of what we just covered last night. Lithium is being fought over right now. So if you do want to get your hands on one of these, again, you can get one that might come on Monday, but I would highly recommend you do your thorough research, not watch a YouTube video. Go research the companies that make these. Go look at the companies that make the ones that come on Monday, and then look at that company and look at who it's a front for and a direct front for. Think about this. If there's a country that might attack us, you probably don't want to get their backup power supplies, especially ones with backdoors in them. If you get this, again, this is a very, very competent and one of the most reliable systems out there. It is tough as nails. I would say it's tough as a tank. It practically is. It's steel reinforced frames, heaters in every battery for extreme cold temperatures, 1,500-pound latch system. This thing, again, is made to fall off the back of a rig and bounce. Like, this thing is badass. So if you want one of the best generators and bragging rights to having it, go over and check out marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle to get not only a huge savings, but to help us out. It's silent, so nobody is going to hear that you have it. Nobody's going to hear it from 3 blocks away and try to come steal it, because you're going to be the gray man with a Flex Tactical. Again, I use mine for charging my tools. I've used it camping. We've used it to power a projector and literally put a movie on our garage. We've used it to power a TV and an Xbox. We've used it for tailgating. We've used it for everything at this point. Same with the Flex 1500. That's the step down from this. I would say both are great, but with the new latch system, I think that makes it incredibly, incredibly easy. So go check it out. Again, get your name on one as soon as you can. If you do expect to get it, there are months-long wait, so that is the only downside, and it is one hell of an upside once you get it, though. All right, and then as far as tomorrow, we have so much going on. If you have not already, make sure to go to the website and check out everything that we have going over there, including you have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we showed you here today. There's tons of great stuff, so don't forget about it. And then plus, if you missed any of the affiliates from tonight, over on the right, you can find all of those there and support independent media. Make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/friends. You can go check out all of our wonderful, mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat for them. They keep this community awesome and positive. So go check them out, from Bones to Wages World, Trinity, Ilea, and everybody in between. Go check them out. Also, a big thank you to 2023 donors. Thank you, Linda S., Dawn D., Jacqueline L., Dean G., Jeff B., Lisa H., Sheila B., Tony D., and Joanne H. We are about to update for 2024. Thank you guys for supporting last year. We appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you guys, everybody that supports our channel, who has stuck with us through thick and thin, who has dealt with the ups and downs of the algorithms. Thank you for those of you that have always clicked and selected that bell. You guys are all absolutely awesome. So thank you. Love you. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Have a good night, guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro, it's a shout out. Wait. It's not an outro, it's not a shout out. I forgot. It's a Shishkama Bob. No, that's not it. Can you guys help me in chat? What is it? It's not it's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a. Why am I forgetting this? A boom tro. No, Bobby Sue. A shoutro.